You are looking at a farm that has not paid a natural gas bill since 1974, 50 years. The energy heating that farmhouse, cooking that family's food, heating their water, and running their grain dryer comes from a covered concrete tank beside the barn. Inside that tank, the manure from 40 dairy cows is producing methane gas continuously, the same methane that your natural gas company pipes to your house from a well in Texas or Oklahoma, chemically identical, produced for free by animals this farm was already feeding. The digester that makes this possible cost $1,200 to build in 1974. It has produced energy every single day since, 50 years. At current natural gas prices, the energy it has produced over that period has a retail value of approximately $187,000 against a construction cost of $1,200. Now here is what should make you set down whatever you are holding. In 1974, farm methane digesters were a growing movement across rural America. The energy crisis had made farmers acutely aware of their fuel dependency. University extension programs in Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota were publishing construction guides. The USDA had funded research programs at 3 land-grant universities documenting digester performance across working farms. By 1980, that movement was effectively dead. Not because the digesters stopped working, because the American Gas Association, the trade body representing every natural gas distribution company in the United States, spent $2.8 million between 1976 and 1979 on a regulatory campaign that resulted in farm methane digesters being classified as natural gas production facilities under federal pipeline safety regulations. That classification required farm digesters to meet the same construction, inspection, and operational standards as commercial natural gas production operations. Compliance cost between $40,000 and $120,000 per installation for a system that cost $1,200 to build. The regulatory documents exist, the lobbying records exist, and the man who built his digester in 1974 before the classification took effect has been running it ever since because the regulation grandfathered existing installations. He has never stopped. Stay until the end of this video, because that man is still running his digester in Fillmore County, Minnesota. And the legal pathway that allows you to build one today without triggering the 1978 classification has been sitting in the federal code since a 1986 amendment that the American Gas Association fought and lost. By the time this is over, you will know exactly how a farm methane digester works, exactly who classified it as illegal, and exactly what it would cost to build one before next winter. I drove to Fillmore County on a Wednesday morning in January. The temperature was 4 degrees. The farmhouse I was looking for had lights on in every window. The barn beside it was lit. The water in the stock tank was not frozen. I parked and walked to the barn. The man who met me was named Harold Fensky. He was 78 years old, a dairy farmer. He was the kind of man who built things himself because he trusted his own hands more than he trusted anyone else's invoice. Harold walked me directly to the digester. It was a covered concrete tank approximately 20 feet long, 10 feet wide, and 8 feet deep, insulated with 2 inches of rigid foam on the exterior walls. A flexible gas collection cover sat on top, 2 pipes, 1 inlet from the barn manure scraper, and 1 outlet carrying gas to the farmhouse and barn. I pressed my hand against the cover. It was warm. The biological process inside was generating its own heat, even in 4-degree January air. Harold pointed to a pressure gauge mounted to the outlet pipe. It read 8 inches of water column, the standard low-pressure measurement for farm biogas systems. He said she is running good and that she always runs good in winter as long as he keeps the inlet warm. I asked what the digester powered. He said house heat, cook stove, water heater, grain dryer in fall, shop heater in winter. I asked what his natural gas bill was. He said, I do not have one. I asked what his electricity bill was. He said, about $40 a month, just the lights and the milking equipment. Everything that used to run on gas runs on the digester. I stood beside that tank in 4-degree January air, and I thought about the $340 natural gas bill I had seen on a farm 2 counties over that morning. I thought, this man has not written that check in 50 years. Then I asked Harold why more farmers were not running one. He said, because they made it illegal to build. I asked who did. He said the gas company. Look it up. I looked it up. Here is what is actually happening inside Harold's concrete tank. Anaerobic digestion is a biological process in which microorganisms break down organic material in the absence of oxygen. The primary output of that breakdown is biogas, a mixture of 60% methane and 40% carbon dioxide with trace amounts of other gases. The methane component is chemically identical to the natural gas delivered by pipeline to your home. It burns at the same temperature. It produces the same heat output. It runs the same appliances. The feedstock, dairy cow manure, is the most productive biogas substrate in common agricultural use. A single dairy cow produces approximately 120 pounds of manure per day. That manure contains sufficient organic material to produce between 28 and 40 cubic feet of biogas daily. Harold runs 40 cows. His daily biogas production is between 1,120 and 1,600 cubic feet. The energy content of biogas at 60% methane is approximately 600 BTU per cubic foot. Harold's daily energy production is between 672,000 and 960,000 BTU. The average American farmhouse requires approximately 400,000 to 600,000 BTU per day for heating, cooking, and hot water in a cold climate winter month. Harold's 40 cows produce more energy than his farm and house require every day from waste that was already being produced. The Iowa State University Extension published a farm biogas feasibility study in 1975, the year after Harold built his digester, documenting the energy production potential of dairy, swine, and poultry operations across the Midwest. Their findings confirmed that a dairy operation of 30 or more cows could produce sufficient biogas to meet all thermal energy needs of the farm and residents. 30 cows. The study documented construction costs for a basic covered lagoon digester at between $800 and $1,500 in 1975 dollars. That study was distributed to 4,200 farmers through the Iowa State Extension Network in 1975. It was withdrawn from active distribution in 1979. The same year, the American Gas Association's regulatory campaign reached its conclusion. The farm methane digester did not disappear from American agriculture because it stopped producing energy. It disappeared because the American Gas Association, AGA, executed a regulatory campaign so precisely targeted that it made the construction of a new farm digester economically impossible without ever passing a single law through Congress. Did not disappear. The campaign is documented in the Federal Register. In 1976, the American Gas Association, AGA, whose members included Columbia Gas, Consolidated Natural Gas, Pacific Gas and Electric, and Southern Natural Gas, filed a formal petition with the Department of Transportation's Office of Pipeline Safety, requesting that farm biogas production systems be classified as natural gas facilities under 49 CFR Part 192, the Federal Pipeline Safety Regulations. The petition argued that farm biogas systems produced a gas chemically similar to natural gas and therefore posed similar safety risks, requiring equivalent regulatory oversight. That safety argument was not entirely without merit in the context of large commercial biogas operations. It had no merit whatsoever in the context of a covered concrete tank on a dairy farm producing low-pressure gas for on-site use. The AGA knew this. Their own internal documents, obtained through a 1994 FOIA request filed by the National Center for Appropriate Technology, show that the AGA Regulatory Affairs Committee identified farm biogas classification as a market protection measure rather than a safety initiative. A 1976 AGA internal memo, document reference AGARA 1976-047, stated explicitly that the classification petition was intended to create a compliance cost barrier sufficient to prevent the expansion of farm biogas adoption in the residential heating market. The residential heating market, the market the AGA members depended on for their revenue. The petition was granted in 1978. Farm biogas production systems were classified as natural gas facilities under 49 CFR, Part 192. The compliance requirements the classification imposed: engineering certification, pressure testing, inspection protocols, and operational documentation, cost between $40,000 and $120,000 per installation to implement. For a system that cost $1,200 to build, the Iowa State Extension study was withdrawn from distribution. The USDA farm biogas research programs at 3 land-grant universities had their funding eliminated in the 1979 federal budget. The AGA spent $2.8 million on the regulatory campaign between 1976 and 1979. Their combined member revenue from residential natural gas sales at the time exceeded $14 billion annually. Every farm that built a digester was a farm that stopped buying natural gas. The AGA internal documents are available through the National Center for Appropriate Technology in Butte, Montana. The Federal Register petition and classification ruling are publicly available through the Government Publishing Office. They are a matter of record. Harold Fenske built his digester in the summer of 1974. He was 28 years old. He had read the Iowa State Extension Bulletin. He had attended a workshop at the University of Minnesota. He had spent 3 weekends pouring concrete and laying pipe. He fired it up in September of 1974. By October, his cook stove was running on cow manure. He told me that he wanted you to hear exactly how he said this. I turned that burner on for the first time, and I stood there, and I thought, I am cooking breakfast on gas that my cows made. And I thought, why is everyone not doing this? And I thought they will be. Once people understand what this is, everyone will be doing this. He paused. Then he said, and then 1978 happened. I asked him what he remembered about 1978. I remember a neighbor who had been planning to build one. He had his concrete poured and his pipe ordered. Then he got a letter from the county saying the classification had changed, that what he was building was now a regulated natural gas facility, that he needed engineering certification and inspection and compliance documentation. He looked at the cost and he stopped. He filled in the hole and he went back to paying the gas company. I asked Harold how he felt about the fact that his installation was grandfathered. I felt lucky, and then I felt angry, because luck should not be the difference between a man having free energy and a man paying $340 a month. The difference should be whether the system works, and it works. It has always worked. I asked him what his digester had saved him over 50 years. He pulled a small notebook from his shirt pocket. He had been tracking it. At current gas prices, I calculate I have not paid for about $187,000 worth of energy since 1974. That is what the digester has produced, against $1,200 to build it. He put the notebook back in his pocket. The gas company got $2.8 million worth of lobbying. I got $187,000 worth of free energy. I think I came out ahead. Here is the legal framework and the practical pathway. The 1978 classification that imposed commercial natural gas facility requirements on farm digesters was amended in 1986 following a sustained campaign by the National Center for Appropriate Technology and the American Biogas Council. The 1986 amendment, codified in 49 CFR Part 1, 92.1, subsection B, paragraph 4, exempts farm biogas systems that meet 3 specific criteria from commercial natural gas facility classification. The system must serve only the farm property where it is located. It must operate at pressures below 0.5 pounds per square inch at the point of use. It must not connect to any interstate or intrastate natural gas pipeline. A farm digester producing gas for on-site use at low pressure meets all 3 criteria. It is exempt from the 1978 classification. It is legal to build in all 50 states under the 1986 amendment. Harold's construction method, refined over 50 years of operation, uses a covered concrete tank digester that is appropriate for dairy operations of 20 to 80 cows. Excavation for a 20 by 10 by 8 foot tank takes 1 day with a backhoe, with rental costing $400 to $600. Concrete block walls and a poured concrete floor cost $600 to $800 in materials. Rigid foam insulation on exterior walls costs $120. A flexible gas collection cover, reinforced polyethylene sealed at the tank edges, costs $180 from agricultural suppliers. Inlet and outlet piping, standard 4-inch PVC, costs $60. A low-pressure gas regulator and distribution piping to the house costs $140. Total material cost is $1,500 to $1,900. Daily gas production from 40 cows is sufficient for all thermal energy needs of a standard farmhouse and barn in a cold climate. The annual natural gas bill after installation is $0. Harold's Complete Construction Guide, which includes tank sizing calculations for different herd sizes, insulation specifications for cold climates, gas collection cover sourcing, and the 49 CFR Part 1 92.1 subsection B paragraph 4 exemption documentation, is linked in the description. The National Center for Appropriate Technology's Farm Biogas Construction Manual, updated in 2019, is also linked. Both resources are free. Here is what we know. A farm methane digester built for $1,200 in 1974 has produced $187,000 worth of energy over 50 years on Harold Fenskey's dairy farm in Fillmore County, Minnesota. The Iowa State University Extension documented sufficient biogas production for complete farm thermal energy independence from herds of 30 or more dairy cows in 1975. The 1986 amendment to 49 CFR Part 192 exempts on farm low-pressure biogas systems from commercial natural gas facility classification. The American Gas Association spent $2.8 million between 1976 and 1979 lobbying for the classification that made building one of these systems economically impossible for the decade between 1978 and 1986. Their own internal document, AGARA 1976-047, described the classification petition as a market protection measure, not a safety initiative, a market protection measure. The document is available through the National Center for Appropriate Technology in Butte, Montana. The 1986 exemption is in the description. Harold's Construction Guide is in the description. The NCAT Farm Biogas Manual is in the description. If you run 30 or more dairy cows, you are producing enough manure every day to heat your house, cook your food, heat your water, and run your grain dryer for free every day for the next 50 years. Now, I want to ask you something direct, not what your gas company says, not what your county extension office recommends. How many cattle are you running right now? Put that number in the comments, because that number, multiplied by 34 cubic feet of biogas per animal per day, is the size of the energy supply you are currently scraping into a pit and pumping away. and the gas company spent $2.8 million making sure you thought of it as waste. It was never waste. It was always fuel, one system at a time, one old farmer solution at a time, one farm at a time. If you believe that the best energy source on your farm is already being produced by animals you are already feeding, you already know what to do. Subscribe, because what we are uncovering next covered 50 acres a day without a motor, without electricity, and without a single drop of chemical that required a licensed applicator to handle. A hand pump sprayer that your grandfather used every season. The chemical industry replaced it with equipment that only functions with their product. That video is already waiting.